the major events in the galaxy which have shaped mankind's history. A brief cosmology of events leading up to now. 350,000 BC. Fear-based ego contamination spreads through this universe like a wildfire, eventually contaminating even the base levels of eternal verities in the Creator laboratory. Mass sentience has degenerated into a mass of arrogant, violent rebels who begin to use their intelligence to develop destructive weapons and mind control technology. For example, the Atlanteans. And I will leave a link below for you for the video of Manly P. Hall having to do with the Atlantis and the gods of Antiquity and the reason for their demise, as written by Plato, their selfishness, their haughtiness, and the danger of their advanced technical knowledge. And before they were sunk, many of them fled to other areas of the world, taking their knowledge with them. This is according to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and again describing all this, Manly P. Hall video. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link below. It's very, very informative. The ones that survived the Atlantis sinking later went to become the pharaohs and the gods of the demigods of ancient Egypt. Now back to this. Yes, they were violent rebels. 300,000 BC begins within this life wave corrupted their knowledge and take it to the extreme by trying to fuse science with sorcery, with their magic, in collaboration with the fallen verities. Strange genetic spawns are formed by sorcerer scientists who are intent on playing God. These beings became the drone army. Spiritual circuitry is severed in this sector of the galaxy. This manifests on the planet as huge global tectonic collapses, and under tremendous pressure, the underground magma reservoirs explode out through the crust via the mid-oceanic rifts, sending huge geysers of basalt-laden waters miles into the sky, where it disperses through and consolidates with the mist-like atmosphere of the planet, which in turn primes the hydrodynamic cycle. Emptied of their contents, the vast subterranean caverns from which are later colonized the mountain ranges and continents are pushed upwards. Sorcerer scientists on the island continent of Atlantis open up a rift in hyperspace as an experiment with crystal-based electromagnetic manipulation goes out of control, releasing electromagnetic substance fallout for thousands of years to come. These Atlanteans try to escape the global cataclysm by taking refuge in the underground caverns below the east coast of North America and Western Europe. Many, however, perish from suffocation, starvation, or from drowning as their bases are flooded. 250,000 BC, ET alchemists choose Earth as a base from which, working in under the direction of the fallen deities, they genetically engineer the race of reptilian humanoids using a reptilian and/or saurian DNA base. These reptiloids, some of whom have been fused with human and other strains of DNA, get out of control and rebel. Fallen angels, astral parasites, poltergeists incarnate these creatures, successfully attempt to assimilate, absorb, integrate their physical nature into their own beings. Some remain physical and migrate into existence, underground caves, whereas others are phased out of the third dimension from time to time. These poltergeists or Veridrax possess powerful world leaders in order to assimilate their physicality, thus creating a tri-symbolic being, a virtual perversion of nature that is part poltergeist, reptilian, and human, all integrated or superimposed as one entity. Now remember, in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he did tell us that there were entities that are reptilian that to us look like humans, and that they are shapeshifters. They're actually demonic entities, and the Atlanteans were responsible for bringing them in from interdimensional parallel universes, and that was one of the reasons they were doing that. This was something they should not have been dealing with, but they went against God's laws, and it was to the detriment of humanity and the world. And that was one of the reasons why Atlantis was done away with. Now, going back to this was written, of course, explained very well in the Emerald Tablets written by Thoth, the Atlantean, or Hermes Trismegistus. Trismegistus is in Greek, Trismegistus is the way you pronounce it in English. Now, many of these remain on the surface of the planet and develop methods of blending in, quote unquote, with the human population, molecular shape-shifting, technotic projection, laser holograms, superficial biophasing, etc. Several of these escaped to Antarctica, at the time a semi-tropical continent, and developed a powerful empire. 200,000 BC, the center of civilization, human civilization, is in the lush kingdom in the Gobi region of Central Asia. That's just below Mongolia. Blue-eyed, blonde-haired humans, in alliance with a tall humanoid branch known as the Nephili, wage war against the Reptilian Empire in Antarctica. The Gobians of the Gobi Desert, in a desperate measure to defend their infiltrated and threatened society, use an experimental superweapon, a cobalt warhead, quote unquote, question mark, against the Antarcticans, and the explosion knocks the planet off its axis alignment and sends most advanced cultures back into the Stone Age, except for those who escape underground in order to maintain their scientific community. When the planet stabilizes, the poles have shifted. The Gobi begins to turn into an inhospitable desert, burying the remains of the pre-Nordic kingdom under tons of sand, and Antarctica is turned into a frozen wasteland, which in turn buries the remnants of the Reptilian Empire under tons of ice. Woolly mammoths of Siberia are frozen solid almost overnight, with their main center of power shattered. Reptilian forces and secret outposts all over the planet band together and are forced to take refuge within huge cavern systems that had been discovered underground, which remain intact. These multi-leveled hydrothermal caverns become their new abode, especially a massive underground system centered below the general region of Nepal and stretching from Benares, India, to Lake Manasarovar in Tibet. Many of the former Gobi Nordics also escape underground into recently discovered cavern systems below the general region of Mongolia and Central Asia. As with the reptiloids, the Nordics carefully conceal the entrances to these underground realms in order to protect themselves from unwanted intruders. Lower down, the Reptilian and Nordic cavern systems intersect, leading to inevitable underground conflicts between the two superpowers. Other Nordics migrate westward and give rise to those tribes which will eventually become the Scandinavians, whereas the other more fanatical faction invade India, the Aryan invasion of the Indian subcontinent, and bring with them their Hindu traditions of gods who were essentially humans or ancient astronauts from Earth utilizing sophisticated technology. The reptilians and their underground snake world also appear in Hindu traditions, which refer to the reptiloids as the Nagas, a subterranean race of space-faring reptilians who are very menacing to the human race. And also, ancient Vedic texts from India record accounts of strange machines, mercury-powered airships called Vimanas, and even nuclear warfare resulting from the technology that the Aryan Nordics brought with them during the invasion of India. 150,000 BC, the Nordics underneath the Gobi region within the Agarthi kingdom and its capital Shambhala, the Lesser, and the reptiloids under the region of Nepal, the 7th level reptilian underworld of Patala, with its capital Bogavita, continue to wage a species war against each other, first within the caverns of Asia, and then within the caverns of the Americas and other continents, then a war for dominion of the air, and finally taking their conflict to the moon and even Mars. 100,000 BC, the Nordics and reptiloids of the SOL system and of Terra, Earth, Shan discover hyperspace travel. America would discover how to manipulate hyperspace much later during the Philadelphia experiment, only 40 years following the Wright brothers' first heavier-than-air flights. Accessing hyperspace is relatively easy. The problem comes with trying to manipulate hyperspace without tragic and dangerous side effects. Over the next 70,000 years, a large segment of the galaxy and several dimensions are colonized due to the advent of instantaneous interstellar and interdimensional travel. Life forms on Earth have succeeded in breaking out of the cradle. In most cases, the masses of the planet had been intentionally kept in technological darkness and poverty, especially by the more malevolent starfaring groups, in order to provide a constant supply of slaves, biogenetic sources, and resources for many alien groups which had their original genesis on planet Earth. All throughout history, regular brain drains have recruited the most intelligent minds that the surface of planet Earth had to offer, these being initiated into the secret societies which operate underground, off-planet, or in other dimensions. The warlike masses of planet Earth, who were considered a potential threat to the interventionists and non-interventionists alike, are manipulated into a long-range plan of eco-political servitude. The malevolent aliens are terrified at the prospect of a Nordic-backed open or free society on planet Earth breaking out of the planetary cradle, quote-unquote, and thus threatening their galactic empire, and the benevolent aliens are fearful at the prospect of Draco-backed controlled society, such as the Nazi space forces, being used as mind-controlled warriors to fight the Draconian galactic battles for them. The Nazi Bavarian Space Force based in Antarctica would eventually be responsible for helping the Draco Collective to enslave several worlds within the immediate 21-star system sector of the galaxy. On Earth, these atrocities were being carried out by a third faction, the Astarte or Ashtar cult, nothing to do with the Ashtar Command, based in caverns below the Egypt-Giza desert. This cult, which much later had close ties to Nazi occult societies, elements of conventional religiosities, and international bankers who are real controllers of the planet, forms out of a collaboration between humanoid and reptiloid techno-sorcerers who are part of an interplanetary Masonic Lodge-style organization. Fallen elements of the human and serpent beast races began to develop genetically engineered bodies to be used by the Luciferian masters in order for their masters to operate in and manipulate third-dimensional matter and technology. Many of the so-called gray aliens, quote-unquote, are conceived fallen elements from the three creations, angels, humans, and beasts, are now fully collaborating as part of Lucifer's ancient rebellion conspiracy against the creative plan. The Greys are a Frankensteinian combination of reptiloid, insectoid, humanoid, and even plant-like DNA, combined with sophisticated cybernetics and implant technology which links them into a group mind, ultimately controlled and incarnated by fallen verities themselves. Satanaku's attempt to imitate God and create a race of his own. It's not a creation, however, but merely a perversion of that which has already been created. The Ashtar collaboration by this time had been infiltrated and contaminated by the rebel verities, which manipulate much of this universal and non-exclusive collective by masquerading as ascending masters. They eventually establish a large network based in Sirius B, A faction, however, rises in Sirius A, which resists the expansionist philosophy of the main Ashtar Alliance and becomes known as the Sirius A Alliance. Since many within the Ashtar Collective are linked together psionically via 3rd, 4th, and 5th density implants, it was not too hard for the Draconians, who also have access to 3rd, 4th, and 5th density realms, to, quote, hack in, end quote, to the collective and begin to manipulate it, in spite of any good intentions of some of those semi-individuals who are part of the Ashtar Alliance. Many of those Nordics who adhere to strict non-interventionist ethics established the core of their civilization near the ring nebula of Lyra, and the reptiloids established the base of their empire in Alpha Draconis, Thuban, whereas other reptilian factions who do not believe in the predatory activities of the Draconians themselves break off and establish independent colonies in other star systems such as Capella. These reptilian factions now serve tirelessly with the cosmic hierarchy to end this disharmony. The next 1,000 years see the Ashtar Collective largely ineffectual due to infighting and internal sabotage. Over time, though, the integrity of the collective was reestablished, leaving this group as the foremost authority in the galaxy on the subversive tactics of the Draconian Empire. 50,000 BC, in a sudden surprise attack, the Alpha Draconian Empire destroys 3 Nordic colonial worlds in the Lyra region. Many other planets were ravaged during the Lyran Wars by a group known as the Draco-Borg Collective. The first thing that they did was subtly infiltrate all strata of society and use implants to exercise mind control. They then systematically erode the collective soul matrix and assimilate the population into their group memory complex, effectively replacing the soul history of the population with their own memories, turning them into drones. This is exactly what elements of that collective are attempted to do here, now on this planet. If you look around, you'll see more and more people here that are just not home. They seem oblivious to the highest ground, yet are driven by purpose alone, which manifests as selfish ambition. Many world leaders are totally under the control of the dark forces and negative ETs. Many actually have had physical surgery to implant cybernetic control mechanisms. Now we remember the Emerald Tablets, Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus, told us that these reptilians that looked like humans to us, they actually do away with the actual voted-in world leaders and take their place to implement something which is totally against the benefit of humans and mankind. This is again described in the Emerald Tablets by Thoth, written by Thoth the Atlantean. When the system was assimilated, a group who were not susceptible to these primitive forms of mind control came to the system and established an outpost of the Syrian High Command. The role has been education and peacekeeping ever since. Over 50 billion men, women, and children perished in the initial attacks on Lyra. Vega Lyra escapes the destruction and is able to put up a defense and receive some of the surviving refugees from the devastated worlds, whereas other refugees escape to Regal Orion and to the Pleiades cluster, where they commenced to terraform several worlds which become the base of the large federation of worlds. The Hyades and Andromeda constellations, not necessarily Andromeda Galaxy, are colonized, as are several worlds within the antimatter DAL universe. Much later, in this period, an elite high command is formed, which comes to be known as the Circle of Sirius. Membership is strictly limited to monadic groups, sourced of eternal verities, which, due to their unalterable loyalty to the Creator's plan, are immune to the negative ego and mind control technology of the fallen verities. 32,000 BC, the Nordics in Regal, after massive infiltration by Draconian forces, wage a desperate war against Reptilian and Grey forces. The surviving Nordics are forced out of the Orion open cluster and take refuge in the Jovian moons of Sol, Jovian being Jupiter, in Sirius A and in Procyon. Other humanoids flee to the outer Orionite systems, yet because of their close proximity to the Central Empire, must capitulate much of their sovereignty over the Draconian collective. These peoples are used by the collective to serve the Empire in a similar fashion as peasants serve a king or dictator, yet on a much larger and more tragic scale. 18,000 BC, the Orion cluster is now fully controlled by the United Worlds of Orion, which in turn serves under the authority of the Alpha Draconian Empire, Regal and Bellatrix being major centers of Orionite power. This sub-empire of Orion consists, all in all, of 6 Orionite star systems at the core, which have succeeded in conquering and subduing several worlds throughout this sector of the galaxy in order to feed their empire's parasitic lust for conquest. Many of these worlds are slave planets where descendants of human colonials live, although their horrifying existence could probably not be considered living. The atrocities of the Draco-Orion Empire are known throughout the whole galaxy and has earned itself the title among many of their Federation enemies as the Unholy Six. Devastating battles waged between the Pleiadians and the Orionites, whole worlds devastated. The Syrians, many of whom are descendants from refugees from Regal Orion, begin a long history of interstellar conflict with the Orionites over the disputed sector of space, a star cluster in the immediate vicinity of Sol, containing some 21 life-bearing star systems and 287 inhabited worlds. 10,000 BC, core systems of the Draconian collective include Alpha Draconis, Regal Orion, Epsilon Boots, that's the area that's a space of void. It's a void with no galaxies and stars. The Boots, Epsilon Boots. Then you have Zeta 2 Reticuli. Then you have the core systems of the Ashtar Alliance include Sirius B, Arcturus, Aldebaran, Altair. Core systems of the United Federation include Taigeta Pleiades, Tau Ceti, Vega Lyra, and Procyon. To better understand these 3 networks, you could say that the United Federation's main focus is on spiritual development, whereas the Ashtar Alliance is on intellectual advancement and the development of the ideal of Christed civilization, and the Draconians on material conquest. We live in a universe of spirit, mind, and matter. The important thing to remember, however, is to ensure that spirit dominates over matter rather than the other way around, that is, a top-down flow of life rather than a bottom-up flow of chaos. There are fallen verities who would try to counterfeit true spiritual life. You will know them by their fruits and by their obsession with materialism and their advocation of material means for salvation of spirit. For instance, so-called salvation by surrendering to a psionic electronic collective, which discourages free agency, sovereignty, creativity, liberty, and self-expression. Such a false salvation tends to kill the spirit rather than set it free. However, the federated worlds must subdue and tame the Draconians, otherwise the Draconians, who are motivated by unbounded material appetite just like their rebel fallen angelic masters, will annihilate the Federation worlds, which the Draconian collective considers to be the only obstacle standing in the way of full galactic assimilation and conquest. They are especially hostile to those hardcore non-interventionists who would try to police the galaxy in an effort to prevent interventionist forces from interfering with the sovereignty and destinies of independent worlds. 1500 AD, Draconian reptiloids and Regulan Greys tried to attack and conquer the Nordic colonial world in Procyon. They fail and use the excuse that it was all a mistake and misunderstanding. Incredibly, the Regulan Greys gained the confidence of certain self-serving members of Procyon intelligence by offering to exchange advanced technology in order to make up for the harm done to them as a result of being forced out of their former home world in Regal during the Orion Wars. We're talking about space wars here. Now the Draco's Greys, again, gain access to all levels of Procyon society through a Trojan horse type of subversion and infiltration. At a critical point, the Draco's Greys carry out a sudden coup, and Procyon falls to their control. Many are killed, and many Nordics are taken captive to be used slaves for biological DNA sources for experimentation. Many of these mind-controlled Nordics are used to gain trust of inhabitants of other targeted worlds, including planet Earth. Procyon interdimensional freedom fighters finally liberate their people in the latter part of the 20th century hard time. Three major interstellar superpowers in this sector of the galaxy continue to expand. Multi-dimensional wars rage, empires rise and fall into oblivion, whole civilizations enslaved, liberated only to be enslaved again, and the battle between spirit and matter continues. Many worlds which have lost the knowledge of their ancient genesis on planet Earth begin to discover the truth. All eyes begin turning towards planet Earth and to the galaxy-shaking events which are beginning to form there. The Creator continues to focus upon Earth with the mysterious and awesome plan to bring the corrupted creation back into harmony, utilizing ascendant aspects of loyal monads that have been scattered among the stars. The Creator gods do not seek to destroy the material force of chaos, but to cleanse them and bring them back into alignment with the original plan and purpose of this universe and beyond. This is accomplished individually. We are God's vessels to tame the material forces of the universe and bring them into alignment with spirit. Mankind originally possessed such supernatural dominion in the beginning. However, they forfeited it by succumbing to the lies of the fallen verities who possessed the serpent race, quote-unquote, as described in Genesis chapter 3. This effectively spawned suspicion and fear within humanity, and the simple faith in God, which served as the conduit for the flow of divine life, was broken at our end, and our supernatural dominion over nature was lost. 2000 AD, the conflict between the Pleiadians and the Orionites is now focused on planet Earth, which, with its strategic location and resources and a central role in galactic history, is a key to the success or failure of either side. In Sirius, a massive civil war erupts as Draconian and Oronite infiltration of the Astarte alliance is exposed by factions loyal to the Andromeda Pleiadian non-interventionists. Many within the alliance, especially in Sirius A, begin to ally themselves with the Andromeda Pleiadian Federationists, whereas many with Sirius B, including reptiloids, align themselves with the Draco-Orion collectivists. A Draco-Orion-backed armada, with battleships upwards of 50 miles long, leaves Sirius B at sublight speeds. In order to maintain third-dimensional integrity, it's easier to face in or other dimensions realities through exceeding light speed than it is to face back into the third dimension reality from another dimensional model. Their destination is the Sol system, where they intend to help enforce an electronic New World Order dictatorship with human agents of the Draco-Syrian Orion-Syrian B alliance, who are members of international banking fraternities, have been implementing on Earth for their bases near Giza, Egypt, Dulce, New Mexico, Pine Gap, Australia, the German Tool Societies, Malta based in the Alsace-Lorraine region of Germany, the New Berlin base in New Schwabenland region of Antarctica. Massive abduction, indoctrination, and plantation programs targeting Earth citizens have been carried out through previous decades in order to facilitate the takeover of planet Earth and its annexation into the Draconian Orionite collective. Massive Andromedan, Pleiadian, Tau, Setian, Procyones, Arcturian, Lumite, Vegan, Caldassian, and other forces loyal to the United Federation and the non-interventionist directives have established a massive blockade near the orbital sphere of Neptune in order to prevent this sector, including planet Earth, from being interfered with by incoming Draconian-backed forces who are aware of their ancient genesis on planet Earth and who are intent on overthrowing or enslaving humanity in this critical time in our planet's history so that they can take over their planet, quote unquote. Now, most recent eventualities: during the first half of 1996, a large mothership was found by the Andromedas to have parked itself just outside our solar system in violation of a non-interference treaty negotiated in 1967. The Ashtar Collective and the Syrian High Command reconnaissance later in 1996 revealed a large number of Draco-Reptilian soldiers in cryogenic stasis on board. The Andromedans have stated that the origin of the craft was the Ursa Minor system. In 1997, the Draco forces invaded the Syrian system in the arrogant belief that they will be able to annihilate the headquarters of the Syrian High Command, and these forces were tricked into believing they had the official sanction of key members of the Ashtar Collective Sirius A Alliance, and were lured into a trap which devastated the local battle fleet of the Draco Borg Collective. The mothership in our solar system was then destroyed by the Ashtar Command when attempts were made to enforce the surrender of the ship, and since the 1997 almost annihilation of the local Draco fleet by the Federation Ashtar Alliance, many negotiators have been busy traveling throughout the galaxy performing ambassadorial functions to head off the possible galactic wars by negotiating some type of truce or treaty. The intended goal is to keep any conflict with remaining forces from expanding out beyond as few as systems as possible. Groups from the Pleiades, Procyon, and Tau Ceti have been having confrontations with those from both the Orion system and the Draconians within the outskirt of our solar system. The action is designed to maintain the quarantine in our solar system. It was reported that loss of life has occurred on both sides of the conflict. Furthermore, 7 ships are currently parked in Earth's atmosphere with the purpose of creating a blockade defense system for Earth. The blockade consists of 2 Andromedan, 2 Pleiadian, and 3 Procyon ships. Procyon humanoids have recently become strong partners in the effort to quarantine Earth so that we are given a chance to evolve on a natural basis. The Procyon humanoids have been only recently liberated from the Dow's Greys so that they are every supportive and compassionate regarding the position of the population on Earth. Since 1998, another large armada of ships have, however, been amassing in the Sirius B system, pointing to a possible conflict between the Sirius B system and the Orion system over the quadrant in which Earth is located. Facts do, however, seem to support the existence of a shaky alliance between the two groups that is maintained because of common interests in the population of Earth. Although events in the continuum can change, at present it's believed that the Armada is largely in a standoff position. A recent conference, which included representatives of Sirius Alliance, the Orion Empire, the Galactic Federation, and the Ashtar Collective, no Dow's Greys, or Draconians or Reptilians, were evidently present at this meeting, revolved around the subject of territorial rights and quadrant title to certain parts of our galaxy. The official stand is that Earth be left alone so that we can be allowed to evolve without further interference. The Sirius High Command Alliance Ashtar Collective Galactic Federation Group is more than capable of taking on the entire Orion Empire on their own, and they are not allowed in their support of the evolution of this sector in which Earth is located. The so-called negative ET groups active on Earth at this time are not officially sanctioned by the Orion Empire or the Draco Borg Collective. More so, they are renegade elements of these groups who do not desire peace for the galaxy. The real solution to this is for everyone individually to clear their negative ego advance through the ascension process and clear their soul and monadic extensions, only this will see the end to this conflict for all time. There is currently an argument with the Draco Collective that they may abduct only people who are walk-ins of their own. The latest negotiations see the Draco Alliance acknowledging that their days are numbered. Many of the leaders are experiencing enlightenment and demonstrating willingness to cooperate with the Federation to establish long-time peace. The warrior classes, however, have different ideas and know nothing other than the instinctive domination and carnage. We still have a long way to go, however. If we all clear our negative egos, then this will cease. The Greys are developing a new human-reptilian hybrid with a soul matrix for them to embody into. This is the purpose of the abductions, and this work, supported by the cosmic hierarchy, provided free will is not violated, judgment and persecution makes things polarize more. Put yourself in the position of the Greys for a moment. They are unable to reproduce. Their development along scientific lines of self-directed mutation over eons of time led them to destroy their soul matrix, and if they do not develop a new hybrid matrix, they will cease to exist. This would be disastrous for this galaxy, as they are meant to be embodying the dark polarity in this creation, and without them this creation cannot achieve its purpose of synthesis of extreme polarities. All beings involved need to get their heads out of a place where the sun does not shine and forgive what has been, embrace the now opportunity for new learning, and so create future moments of peace and harmony. And he says here, I have personally met several of the new hybrid reptilian humans, and I like them. These new embodiments of that polarity seek peace and understanding like we do. The more ancient elements cannot be trusted, yet we must work with these new enlightened aspects of that energy to restore integrity to the Creator's plan. If we as senior light workers do not, then there is no hope. We must lead by example, and we will and are leading by example, and we are in the home stretch of harmony and balance reigning again. Each and every person who clears their negative ego effects a victory towards harmony and peace within the galaxy, which is a victory beyond measure. How does this kind of thing happen? Early scientists were attuned to the laws of nature and the energies of the world and its lands, and to the energies of the universe. But as technology and the scientific perspective gained momentum, that link to spiritual truth had gradually lost and fell away as a discarded robe. Science became its own god, which meant it was given a form of worship, and all discovery and intervention were hailed as the way ahead and the way of growth. This is why science in this intervention is really, in reality, led to the impact that has devastated the lands and its people and almost the planet itself. When something becomes so powerful and important, it brings reward and admiration, greatness among the human races, but it's lost its sensitivity and its link to the spirit, and therefore has gone astray and has not fulfilled what it could have done. We're not speaking against progress. We're not speaking against the brilliance of some minds, and we are not speaking against man's need for protection, shelter, and growth, but we're saying that how wonderful it could have been if it had been attuned. Before recorded history, in your work on many of the worlds and the universes, there are examples where science is a servant rather than a master, and has therefore retained its balance and created a place of balance, unity, love, and peace. And before recording time, the ancients used science to create, to build, and to attune the energies of the individual to the energies of the universe. Such beings that lived then were completely in balance, but as with your present world and over time, and with contact with galaxies that were less attuned and balanced, a regression and the worship and pursuit of ways not consistent with the forces of the universe began to continue. We're not saying this was wrong, and we're not saying this was right. It just was, or as we would now say, it is the is, and it's also part of the cycles that characterize most civilization in all its forms. And so while science is necessary and essential, it's better balanced with spiritual awareness. Can we give an example? Nuclear fission has such wonderful potential, but without the spirit has become a devastation of your world. If the scientists, quote unquote, that worked with this energy had been attuned to the spirit and to the universal consciousness, you would see such energy replacing the sources that scourge the earth. Mankind has a potential to harness the energy for good, but man also has a potential to employ the energy to enlist fear that leads to conflict, destruction, devastation. This is not the only example. Your ozone layer and the holes therein, your smog-filled cities, and the layers of chemical polluted silt covering so much of your ocean's shores are other examples. As the new beginnings grow into a continuum of growth, there will be the opportunity to reverse much of what has happened, but we must first bring mankind to the awareness of that spirit, the universal consciousness, and that each in God. Once this is realized, all that happens will happen in and to restore and maintain balance. For when the spirit is glowing and vibrating with pure radiant energy, the thoughts that lead to inventions and discoveries are also glowing, vibrant, and pure. It's important that each one who hears this message reflects on at least one discovery that has created imbalance. If you replace that invention in your mind by thinking of how it could have been different and served mankind, then all such thoughts will link into the universal consciousness from which those who do discover can draw ideas that will change and develop positive and balanced outcomes. It can also help mankind rediscover the wisdom and power of the ancients, for herein is the way to future growth and the future balanced universe. This is from exopoliticshongkong.com, Bibliotheca Pleiades, and it's on Humans Are Free by Alexander Light. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.